So good day to you. I'm Datu Baliah from BSI2 and I'll be talking about the wheelbarrow. So a wheelbarrow is a carrier usually having only one wheel consisting of a tray bolted to two handles and two legs. While known mostly as a device for carrying small loads for the household gardener, a wheelbarrow is often also used in the construction and industry for carrying larger loads. Now we are going to go to the history of the wheelbarrow. So the birthplace of the modern wheelbarrow was in China, possibly as early as 100 BC. One early version consisted of a large single wheel at or near the front of a platform. The load would be placed behind the wheel and the operator would lift the heavy end and push the load. Sometimes a small basket would be used to carry the load, and if it was heavy, a second operator could pull from the front. Another type prob- was probably invented by Zhuge Liang in 300 AD, a carrying surface that was basically a large wheel housing that encased the top half of the wheel. A flat platform projected out from both sides at its axle level could then carry large loads, people and goods in pannier fashion while the operator steered it. Loads were higher off the ground than those carried in modern wheelbarrows. Chinese wheelbarrows were hence similar to rickshaws and the goal was to carry heavy loads in long distances. Cheng Ming-shung in 1200 AD boasted that ways which are as winding as the bowels of a ship will not defeat it. The wheelbarrow's advantage were that loads could be lifted and carried close to the ground as opposed to two-person hand barrows that required carrying to be done at a waist level. A wheelbarrow carrying a basket of goods could be unloaded quickly and put it back in action, although it was too unwieldy at this date to be emptied by simply tilting and twisting it. One person using a wheelbarrow cuts labor costs in half, and it's easier than two people coordinating their movements as they carry a load. Now we're going over the materials of a wheelbarrow. So it consists of a tray or bed composed of steel, wood or plastic. A steel brace attaches this bed steel support legs and to a steel or plastic wheel with a rubber tire around it. In two or four wheel models, the wheels may be similar to bicycle tires, complete with inner tubes. Some handles are metal with foam or hard plastic grips, while some wheelbarrows intended for the home gardener to have solid wooden handles with no grips. Now, the manufacturing process. Because wheelbarrows exist in a variety of forms made from many different materials, manufacturing procedures vary widely depending on the exact kind of a wheelbarrow being made. Some wooden wheelbarrows are simple enough to be made with hand tools used by weekend hobbyists with modest carpentry skills. Some heavy-duty wheelbarrows intended for industrial use are manufactured with heavy machinery which shapes thick steel sheets. In order to discuss the several different techniques used for making wheelbarrows, the following outline will describe manufacturing of a typical garden wheelbarrow with wooden handles, steel legs and braces, a rubber tire and a plastic tray. So we are going over to the parts of the wheelbarrow and how it is made. So first off is making the tray. So in the first, a typical plastic used to make the wheelbarrow trays is polyethylene. Polyethylene is formed by a linking molecules of ethylene into a long chain. Ethylene is a hydrocarbon which is found in the petroleum and natural gas. For industrial purposes, however, ethylene is usually obtained by heating heavier hydrocarbons obtained from petroleum in the presence of a catalyst. This process, known as cracking, transforms larger molecules into smaller molecules such as ethylene. Second, the process of combining numerous small molecules into a long chain is known as polymerization. Ethylene can be polymerized in two types of polyethylene, Low density polyethylene made by subjecting ethylene to a very high pressure is generally used in the form of a thin, flexible film, as in plastic bags. High density polyethylene is such or much stiffer and is used to make wheelbarrow trays and other rigid items. High density polyethylene is polymerized by subjecting ethylene to a pressure about 250 to 500 pound per square in the presence of a catalyst. Third would be high density polyethylene can be formed into a wide variety of shapes, including various techniques for wheelbarrow trays. It is generally produced in the form of a thick sheet. This can be done by extrusion. This process involves melting granules of polyethylene into a liquid and forcing it through a nozzle. The opening of the nozzle has the width and thickness of the desired sheet. As the liquid polyethylene emerges from the nozzle, it cools into a sheet that can be cut into the desired length. So in the fourth, sheets of polyethylene are shipped to the wheelbarrow manufacturer and inspected. They are then shaped into trays using a technique known as vacuum, forming a thermoforming. This process involves heating the sheet until it is soft. The soft plastic is then placed on top of an open box. So the box contains a mold in the shape of the wheelbarrow tray. Air is removed from the box, and the resulting vacuum causes the air pressure outside the box to force the sheet against the mold. The plastic cools into the wheelbarrow tray and is removed. Now on to making the legs and braces. The support legs and braces are usually made of steel. Steel is made by combining iron ore and coke, a carbon-rich substance made by heating coal in the absence of air, and heating them with a very hot air in a blast furnace. The resulting mixture of iron and carbon is known as pig iron. Oxygen is blasted into molten pig iron to remove most of the carbon. Resulting molten steel is cooled into a variety of shapes. Next, the strips of steel arrive at the wheelbarrow manufacturer and are inspected. Sharp dies are used to punch various components out of steel strips using large, powerful presses. Holes are punched into these components to allow them to be bolted into one place. Next is the steel components are usually painted for protection. A degreasing solution is used to clean the components which are dried. Paint is applied using electrostatic process. The steel and the paint are given opposite electrical charges. The opposite charge just attract, causing the paint to cover the steel evenly and completely. The paint is then baked into a steel in an oven. Now we move on to the making of the wheel and tire. The wheel may be made of steel or plastic. It is made using methods similar to those used to make other steel parts or the plastic tray. The tire is usually made of a natural or synthetic rubber. Natural rubber is made from latex, a substance secreted by rubber trees. The latex is filtered to remove foreign substances, and water is added to make the liquid latex thinner. A dilute acid is added to cause a solid rubber to be deposited out of the liquid mixture. Synthetic rubber can be made from a wide variety of chemicals. The most common form of synthetic rubber is styrene butadiene rubber. This substance is made by mixing styrene and butadiene, both derived from petroleum, in an emulsion of soap and water. The two chemicals combine to form synthetic rubber. Next would be the natural or synthetic rubber. Is then heated until it melts into a liquid, then poured into a mold in the shape of a tire. The rubber cools and the tire is removed from the mold. The tire is shipped to the wheelbarrow manufacturer and is placed around the wheel. Now we're going to the second to the last process. So here in the making of handles, the lumber arrives at the wheelbarrow manufacturer and it is inspected. The wood is stored and allowed to dry. It is then cut and shaped by woodworking equipment such as saws, laths. Holes are drilled to allow the handles to be bolted into place. The wooden handles are then coated with varnish for protection. Now lastly, the packaging and the shipping. So wheelbarrows are generally not assembled until they reach the consumer. So it depends on the consumer to assemble the parts of the wheelbarrow when they buy the item. Quality control is the most important factor in producing wheelbarrows. It is ensuring that all the components fit together correctly. During the shaping of steel components, each part is compared to a standard part of the same type that is known to be correct. Because a wheelbarrow is generally assembled into its final form by the consumer, it is critical that all necessary components are included in the shipping container. Instructions for assembly must also be included. Large components and instruction sheets are inspected and individually to ensure that they are present. Instead of counting all the bolts to ensure that there are enough included to assemble the wheelbarrow, the manufacturer can give time by weighing a batch of bolts on an accurate scale. A batch of bolts of correct weight will contain the correct number of bolts. A sample wheelbarrow can be tested by assembling it, filling it with a load, and moving it around. Factors to be considered in order to produce a wheelbarrow that will satisfy consumers include ease of assembly, ease of motion, stability, ability to be steered accurately, and ability to carry a heavy load with a minimal effort on the part of the user. Now that we finish how the wheelbarrow is made, we go to the future of this product. So the wheelbarrow has changed over 1,000 years from handheld carriers with no wheels to modern lawn carts with 4 wheels. The increasing popularity of gardening as a hobby suggests that wheelbarrows will continue to evolve in ways that will make them more versatile and easy to use, and it would be more convenient for the people. So, thank you for watching.